Title: My brother sold my worthless paintings for $50 each, not knowing they're worth $12 million when struggling artist Clara leaves town for treatment. Her brother sells her worthless paintings for pocket cash. But when the art world discovers her genius, he realizes he accidentally gave away a $12 million legacy. And Clara wants it all back. Genre: family drama, betrayal, redemption, art world suspense. The departure Clara Martin had never been one for noise. The outside world roared too loud, moved too fast. Her piece lived in the quiet smears of color she pressed onto canvas late into the night. A recluse by nature and necessity, Clara's art was her lifeline, especially after the breakdown. Her doctor recommended a treatment center in the Berkshires. She agreed reluctantly on one condition: her art was not to be touched. Her brother, Ryan Martin, who had been managing the family's estate since their parents passed, nodded. "Of course," he said. "I'll keep an eye on everything." Clara left behind her key, her home, and her studio, an entire room filled, wall to wall, with her work, her soul made visible. But Ryan didn't believe in souls or art. The yard sale mistake. 3 weeks into Clara's absence, Ryan was drowning. The bills were mounting: mortgage payments, maintenance, a leaky roof. He stood in Clara's studio, eyeing the stacks of canvases. All abstract, all weird, all useless. He dragged a few of the smaller pieces outside and added them to the weekend yard sale. When a neighbor asked how much, he said, $50. "A pop. Take 2, I'll throw in a third." By noon, 6 of Clara's paintings had sold. By the end of the day, 15 were gone. He pocketed the $750 and didn't think twice. They were just paint on canvas. Colorful, sure, but to Ryan, they had no value. The final one sold to an elderly woman named Mrs. Moore, who seemed particularly struck by Clara's use of shadow. Ryan rolled his eyes. "Enjoy the decoration." The discovery 2 months later in New York City. Sophie Daniels was sipping tea in Mrs. Moore's living room when she spotted it, an abstract painting with haunting blues and reds. Sophie froze. The composition was raw, chaotic, brilliant. "Where did you get that?" Sophie asked. "Oh, a yard sale while visiting my niece in Vermont," Mrs. Moore replied. "Some young man was selling them. I bought 6. Sophie's heart pounded. She worked at one of Manhattan's rising contemporary galleries. This wasn't amateur work. This was the kind of visceral, intuitive art the scene hadn't seen in years. She begged Moore to let her photograph the pieces, then she began her search using background clues, local listings, even calling garage sale groups. It took a week, but she traced the sale back to the Martin estate, valuation back at her gallery. Sophie showed the photos to her director. He was stunned. "Who is this artist?" "I don't know," Sophie replied, "but we need to find her." They had the paintings appraised by an art historian who specialized in postmodern American painters. His verdict: "This is rare. She's a fusion of emotion and structure. If we can find more of her work, these are worth 6 figures each easily." Sophie acquired 3 more from private buyers and planned an exclusive showing. The mystery behind the painter fueled the hype. Art blogs picked up the story: unknown Vermont painter discovered through yard sale. Meanwhile, Ryan heard none of this. Clara hadn't returned. As far as he knew, he'd cleaned out clutter and made a quick buck. Clara returned 6 months after leaving. Clara came home. Her hair had grown, her eyes clearer, but when she walked into her studio, her breath caught. The walls were bare, her canvases were gone. "Ryan?" He appeared in the doorway. "Oh, you're back. What happened to my paintings?" He shrugged. "Sold them. Yard sale. I needed cash." "They weren't worth anything, Clara." Clara stared at him, hollow. "You had no right," he scoffed. "You're welcome, actually. People like them. I helped you clean out that mess." She said nothing. That night in her room, Clara scrolled through her phone. A headline froze her. In place, Clara Martin, a rising star in American Expressionism. A photo of her painting, the one with the red spiral, was displayed in Sophie's gallery. Her hands trembled. The explosion, Clara, arrived unannounced at the gallery 2 days later. Sophie nearly dropped her coffee. You're her? She whispered. Yes, Clara said, and those are mine. They talked for hours. Sophie explained everything. The search, the evaluations, the offers. Claire's work was being discussed in circles that once rejected her. Victor Lang, a high-profile collector, offered $12 million for a batch of 10 pieces if they could be located, but Clara had none. Ryan had sold them all. The public betrayal. Ryan was contacted for an interview by a local news station. Somehow he spun the story to his favor. I always believed in my sister's talent. I wanted to help her be discovered. He wore a pressed shirt and a false smile. Clara watched the segment with disgust. That night, she filmed her own video. She sat on the floor of her empty studio, the faint outline of her missing paintings behind her. He didn't believe in me. He laughed at my work. He sold my soul for $50 apiece. The video went viral. The art world listened. Ryan was labeled a fraud, a parasite. Clara became the true artist and the victim. The fight for ownership. Clara worked with lawyers to regain rights to her artwork. Sophie helped navigate the legal maze. Some collectors, like Mrs. Moore, returned the pieces without hesitation. Others, like Victor Lang, demanded payment. Finders keepers, he said smugly. Clara filed lawsuits. The legal battle became a public trial, streamed and dissected online. Arguments were made about creator rights, artist autonomy, and moral compensation. Finally, the court ruled partially in Clara's favor. She would receive a portion of all resale values, moving forward, and retained the moral rights to her work. The reclamation, the victory, was bittersweet. Many paintings were lost to private collectors. But Clara had found something more valuable. Her voice. She sold a handful of new works through Sophie's gallery, raising millions. She used a large portion of the funds to establish the Studio of Silence, a nonprofit for young artists struggling with mental health. Her story was taught in universities. Critics called her the poet of pain. The final canvas months. Later, in a sleek gallery on Fifth Avenue, Clara unveiled a new painting. A large canvas filled with gray, regretful tones. A figure stood in the corner, head bowed, surrounded by empty picture frames. It was titled, "The Brother Who Sold My Soul." Ryan came to see it. He said nothing, just stared at his own silhouette. Immortalized in oil and shadow, Clara didn't look at him. She didn't need to. She had already spoken in color. The end.